Hey, okay. We might have to start and stop this over a couple of times, but my intention for this conversation is to talk about things that are really difficult to talk about. And the topic overall is this concept of Black Moon Lilith. Black Moon Lilith, as she appears archetypally in our subconscious. And literally had a panic attack freak out talking with you before hitting record. Literally had to sit back and just be like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to have this conversation. I know, like, and now I'm starting to feel, as the words are coming out of my mouth, it's starting to feel less pressured. The heat in my cheeks is starting to go away. The wanting to scratch my face off and cry and scream, it's releasing. Like, for whatever reason, before I cross this gate talking about these topics, before I actually do it, the fear, it's somatic, it's in my body. I literally feel terrified and I want to run away and scream and get as far away from whatever I'm about to talk about as possible. And until I actually hit record, until I actually start to do the thing and walk across that gate, the relief is not there. The relief is only on the other side of me hitting record. And I have to remember that every time. Like, every time I make a video, every time I get that sensation to a degree based on how afraid I am to express the thing I'm about to express. And if it's safe, I don't have so much resistance. If it's very scary and vulnerable, I've actually stopped recordings. I've actually decided not today. And the reason I asked you to be with me today, Amanda, is because I needed some accountability, because this thing is probably the scariest thing in my life. It's the biggest topic that would hold me back from expressing myself. And this is true for Black Moon Lilith in our psyche, in our astrological chart, in our subconscious, is the place that is the hardest for us to face. It feels so wrong somatically. It feels terrifying to our system. It feels like the thing we absolutely should not do, but it feels like there's a part of us that knows, but this is the absolute thing I must do. I must do it, and I should not do it. And I'm terrified at that edge. So I'm going to stay away from that edge completely, because I don't know how to reconcile these two very strong forces. Anyways, thank you for agreeing.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting so much insight even as you're saying this. First of all, of course, that's why you're talking about this right now, because it is so scary. And you said this yesterday, how we'll never feel ready because we actually won't feel the relief until we've crossed the threshold, until we've done the thing, until we've taken the leap. And so many of us are like, well, I'll just do it when I'm ready. I'll move when I'm ready. I'll break up when I'm ready. I'll quit the job when I'm ready. I'll write the book when I'm ready. I'll release the book when I'm ready. It's like, no, we'll never actually be ready to do the thing. And so I love the fact that, of course, today, I feel like we're going to talk a lot about the fear, the shame, and the expression or the taking action on that. But as you were just talking, so my Black Moon Lilith for me is in my second house. And we were talking about this briefly, and that's typically the Taurus, house. And for me, it's Sagittarius. But when you were just saying that now, here I am putting the dots together. What feels so wrong in my life right now is to be supported physically in a home, to land somewhere, to have four walls around me permanently. Of course, it's not permanent, but for like a long time, a very Taurian, like get in there for at least a year or longer.
Just fix
there.
Yeah.
Yes. And it feels so wrong. I mean, on so many levels, it feels wrong to me. And yet all I am doing is just taking the next step, signing things before I even know I have the money. Like, it's like, yep, we're doing it. Okay. So to your point, if I had waited to do that until I felt ready, I would never do it.
You're right. I mean, okay. So when I met you, I'd already been working on my book for almost 10 years. I've been working on the story, working on sharing this thing, working on the path of initiation that it feels so epic. It feels so real and right to illustrate and create structure around and express and share. So right. And when I met you, I was like, and I'm struggling. I cannot, I'm terrified, honestly. And you're like, cool, that's why I'm here. So I got into the discipline, I got it written, and then I got it. You challenged me to write the last chapter. I wrote the last chapter. The entire thing is about the Black Moon Lilith initiation process. And what I discovered was throughout this process, and what is expressed in this book, and what I feel my whole message is about, is that there are these gates. There are gates of fear that move. There's seven of these gates, and they correspond with energy centers in the body. They correspond with these, like, for instance, the first gate is the material gate, material survival gate. And there are moments in our life where we decide to step beyond our need for survival and stability and safety, and we step into something that feels juicy and seductive and like alive and uncertain, and like a dance of honestly, it's like usually what draws us out of our security gate is a sexual gate. It's some kind of strong desire for something beyond safety. And what I discovered is that there are these gatekeepers at each of these gates, and the gatekeeper is such a strong force of magnetism when we're beginning to leave the gate that we're at. And so without the seduction, we would never be brave enough to cross our rational boundary that was keeping us safe at that gate to begin with. We would never our rational mind would never cross these gates. There's some force that is beyond the rational mind that is felt, and we're seduced by it. And I believe that as I've been studying these gates, and I've been studying the nature of these gatekeepers, and I've been studying what happens when you cross the gate, what happens to the gatekeeper as you cross the threshold. As I've studied this, I've realized all of this is psychology. Carl Jung actually mapped this beautifully. The Greek gods and goddesses, we've mapped this archetypal human experience over thousands of years. You go way into the Kabbalah, you go into the origin stories, you go into anything ancient, and it's all there. It's just that we've told the story with different characters. We've told the story to be relevant to the societal time, to the cultures. We've told the story so many different ways. And here it is, time for a new mythology, time for a new story, time for the characters to get updated. It's time for us all to be expressing the new story. And oh man, I don't even know if what I said made sense just now.
No, it is. And actually, because as you were talking, I was hearing that. I was like, this is why we tell our own stories. And not only that, but one thing I feel like you and I have experienced a lot over the last few years with you, I feel like in conjunction, has been, you understand these maps, you understand these archetypes, you understand this specifically from the astrological map, as well as all these others, as a way of understanding this human existence. And then meanwhile, I'm over here and I've been learning from you in so many ways, and simultaneously just seeing over and over and over again how lives, my life and the lives of those that I get to work with or talk with or hear their stories, keep fitting into that same map. I mean, it's just, and it's mind blowing. It used to be more mind blowing than it is now. I'm now to a point where I go, oh, right. Okay. And I think that's why you are so good at what you do, because you have such a trust in that system, in that map. And I have the same when it comes to the human journey, the hero's journey. Like, of course you're going to publish this book. Like, that is part of the journey. It has to be. It's like it's already embedded in it. And everything you've done up until this point has been, including this Black Moon Lilith, including, and so because I can hold that so confidently, it's like, then do that next thing. Here we are, right? And of course, having done it, I have greater assuredness, and my Black Moon Lilith is in a different place. I don't have her screaming at me, in that area. And I may have a different gate that I'm actually stuck at or moving through at this time. So I appreciate what you're saying. And I do agree that that's why we are now here to tell our own stories, because as we tell our stories, A, it starts to update the stories for everyone else. And B, I believe it just brings us into greater appreciation for this. Like, it, to me, it's so divine. It's so natural. It's like it's how snowflakes are formed. I mean, I don't know, like it's order and chaos all at once. And I think as we step into that, and as we work with that, and as we express that, and as we share that. And so again, if the throat chakra, that gate, if this is, our expression, and we can do that in so many ways. I mean, we don't have to write books. And yet so many of us just declaring, just as you said, when you started this video, just starting to put words out, saying the thing, that in and of itself was the release. And so again, how many of us have like suppressed our story or our truth or our knowing? And whether that means we aren't saying it to our beloved, or we aren't putting it into the book, or but that suppression is what's keeping us so stuck.
I agree. and so, okay, I'm having this conversation with you because, first of all, I've identified you as the type of person, you're like a gatekeeper for me, who knows how to see me when my Black Moon Lilith psyche is being slippery. Like you have a history with me of being able to see, because we have learned how to work with our Black Moon Lilith in a way that's very intelligent. From the moment we were little kids and we started realizing that there are things that are not okay. These are ways that are not okay. These are feelings that are not okay. These are expressions that are not okay. They're not okay because there are conditions to survival and love on this planet. This is not a planet where everything is always showered upon you effortlessly, continuously, all the time. Similarly to how for some of us, it felt in the womb. In the womb, it was always warm. There was a continuous tap of blood and nurturing. Some people had experiences in the womb that were psychologically painful because the mother experienced a lot of things while the baby was in the womb. So for some people, they actually feel the atmosphere of life is painful because of those early programs. And so even in the womb, we are conditioning our psyche to be able to survive Earthside, to be able to get those needs met, to be able to receive love, to be able to be likable or be connected. We have 6 things that we must do in order to survive on this planet. There's 6 fundamental needs all humans must meet. And in order to meet those needs, we have orchestrated this persona, this character that we play. And Black Moon Lilith is a space in our consciousness that we took all the shit that's not that persona and we put it over there. It's the shadow, it's the dark. I part of what was like freaking me out before I started this conversation. And as I'm feeling so compelled to talk about Black Moon Lilith, and also feeling it's like, but who the hell do you think you are, Christina? Like, that's my Black Moon Lilith starting to get in there. But as I study her more, I realize she's worried I'm going to say something that's wrong. I'm worried that she's going to make me say she doesn't want me to not have the facts, to not have my facts straight, to not have the, the literal. So even right before I got on this call with you, I was like, let me make sure I understand exactly what Black Moon Lilith is astrologically, because she's not a planetary body. Black Moon Lilith is not an actual planet, asteroid, physical manifestation at all in space. Black Moon Lilith, and I just looked this up so I could be absolutely certain that I knew what this was. And even after I read it, I was like, I still don't really understand that. The thing that's wonderful is I'm not the internet. You could literally look up what is Black Moon Lilith in astrology terms, and it will tell you that the moon and the earth have an orbit. It's not exactly a circle, it's elliptical. And sometimes that means that the moon is closer to the earth, which gives us a super moon, and sometimes it's further away. When there's a mathematical space in that orbit, and I think that from what I learned on the internet, when the moon is closest, there's another point in the ecliptic that's further away on the dark side of the moon. It's hidden from us. It is a spot that is far away, outside of the realm of the relationship between the sun and the moon, behind the moon, that we can't actually see and we can't actually access. On the shadow side, did you know? Most people probably know this, but I was kind of blown away when I learned that the moon moves, it rotates, and it actually rotates exactly fast enough so we never, ever, ever see the other side of it. It rotates just enough so we literally only see one face of the moon. We never see the other side because of the way it rotates. And the Black Moon Lilith spot in astrology is on the other side of that. So there's places in our personal experience that we can't see, and we have a difficult time accessing. And we believe it's outside of the realm of us. It's not us. The thing is, it's still in our orbit. It is still a part of us. If the sun and the moon and the earth are archetypal representations, macrocosm representations of us, and if astrology gives us a map of the macrocosmic archetypal construct of our conscious and unconscious and subconscious self, if that is true, which who knows what the hell is true, then this spot is actually an indicator of what we do not see in ourselves.
Which, okay, there's so many things I want to say. First of all, that is why I believe we come together with others, right? This is why we collaborate, why we come to community, why I do what I do, why I want others to, why I work with you. I mean, you help me see the things I don't see in myself. This is actually reminding me a lot of what Alan Watts talks about with playing hide and seek. God plays hide and seek with God because that's the whole point. We cannot see our own eyes, unless we're looking in the mirror. We cannot see inside of our own head. We cannot, right? So there are these things about us very physically that we cannot see. And then, of course, astrologically or on the, metaphorically, that is also true. What I love about this is that therefore, that's why the Black Moon Lilith, it needs someone else to be there witnessing, observing. What I love about what you're saying and how it relates to me in terms of the book you've written, this whole masterclass you've put together around Black Moon Lilith, your entire body of work around it is, you're like, I need to know that what I say is not going to be wrong. Like I need to know that my truth, 9th house, Virgo, is like my truth is right, and yet there's something that I've come into greater knowing of lately, which is my truth can never be wrong. Like what I in every moment know to be true in that moment can never be wrong. I can change it. The next moment, it may be a different truth, but in the moment, I know it to be true. It's true. That's it. And then, so what's beautiful is, of course, that's what she is highlighting for you in that area. And that's, again, why I come around and say, okay, so what's holding you back? Like, this is the time, let's do it, right? This is it. Because now that you do it, of course, and what's beautiful, and I'm curious about this too, like how Black Moon Lilith also plays into our greatest gifts, because what I have a feeling of is, because you have that fear, you are going to look things up. You are going to do your research. You are going to know what you're about to, like, I wouldn't do that because that's not my fear, right? Like, so you actually are already counteracting your deepest fear. And this is why I often tell people, like, if you're afraid, like, oh my God, I'm so afraid I'm going to like be too much, or I'm going to say too much, or I'm like, okay, if you're really afraid of that, I can guarantee you, you never will, because you are going to have such like a hold on that. Like, I'm actually going to have to invite you to give me more because you're so afraid. But as you do that, you will have it's like an automatic shut off. It's like, you will never go too far because your soul will not let you.
You're absolutely right. Like this is why knowing where the Black Moon Lilith is, knowing what we're afraid of, actually release, like, can give us a superpower. It makes us feel like we actually have a superpower, this very scary unconscious place. And you're absolutely right about how we need people. This is the wild, weird thing about our psychology. If there's something that we think is not us, then and we know that we're a whole, that we are the microcosm of the macrocosm. Every single thing is a part of us. We're all, that's a concept that some people feel viscerally and some people don't identify with, but it is in our collective consciousness to be part of the whole. Then if there's things that we refuse to accept about ourselves, we must project them onto others. It has to exist somewhere. So if it doesn't exist in here, then it's got to exist in that person over there. And usually we're highly attracted, so attraction doesn't always feel like we like it. Attraction could also be something that we're repelled by. We can't stand it. And there are these practices we can do to help us identify what we've decided are definitely not us. And we're actually going to do that activity in the master class because it's really powerful and it's very surprising. Like, I can tell you, as I was preparing for this, I was using that concept of the mirror to kind of even, like, what am I actually afraid of? When I show up to share my message and my truth, first of all, what am I afraid of? I'm afraid of, blah, 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 which is making me extra, super extra in the place of trying to figure out, well, what is actually the truth, so I don't come across the image, the person, the archetype that I actually see that I'm like, oh, please don't let me show up like that, is Donald Trump.
Oh,
So, like, bear with me just for a second. This is not a political statement. I actually honestly am so triggered by the way he is. I can't even hear what he's saying because I'm so terrified of ever coming across like he does. And so what are some of his qualities? Well, this is where I get really judgy, really, really judgy. I don't want to come across as a buffoon. I don't want to come across as an arrogant, like, I don't know what I'm talking about, prideful, dismissive buffoon. And I don't want to look ridiculous either. Like, there's a visual aesthetic. People make fun of him for being orange and his hair. I'm terrified that I will look ridiculous, show up like a buffoon and talk about shit that I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. He's my ultimate opposite self. And because I'm terrified of that, I'm like, I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to put on a necklace. I'm going to wear a color that I feel pretty in. I'm going to do my research. I'm going to actually feel like I care about the way I show up, because it seems like he doesn't care, right? Like all of these things, I've polarized this identity. I'm even in a female body because I'm afraid of appearing like a like a buffoon masculine, right? An arrogant I'm so so I will actually, there are probably things that are very powerful about what Donald Trump is doing. He became the president of the country. He has a tremendous amount of power and influence. Whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. How have I created less power in my life because I'm so afraid of coming across like him? How have I refrained from showing up because I'm so terrified of showing up like that? Like, there's power that I've literally prevented myself from having because I'm afraid of appearing or being perceived the way I perceive him. Not everyone perceives him the way I do. He's a neutral archetype in the
A
system.
lot of people perceive him that way, but not everyone. And the point is, he doesn't perceive himself that
He
way.
doesn't perceive
Right?
himself
He
that way.
probably thinks he probably has the opposite fear of you. He is not afraid of being wrong, or at least, he's not afraid of. And if he is, okay, So again, we get to see.
Who knows what he's afraid of? Like, he's afraid of I actually looked at his chart one time to be like, what is this dude afraid of? Like, I gotta study my anti-self. I got to figure out what my projected anti-self is up to over here. But I can't remember now because I have a blind spot. I just can't even look at him. I can't, because it's so repellent to me. And so this is what we all do. There's literally something in every single person's system that's that equivalent, and very specific to each person. And our chart can actually, the only reason I know that he's like that, I see versions of him in the world, and I get the same little sensation in my stomach whenever I see a version of him. And the closer that version looks to me, like if it's a woman, oh my gosh, then I sometimes feel afraid to even watch female astrologers because I'm afraid that I will start to see myself in the female. I actually watch primarily male astrologers because I'm actually afraid of seeing myself in female astrologers, which I know that's like some shady, shadowy stuff right there.
But isn't that the whole point, is that when we realize it's the shadow, I mean, it's not that you don't have to watch female astrologers. Like, that's okay. Just like, I don't know, like I love this because I keep looking at like, who am I really attracted to in my life? I'm like, oh, I'm definitely attracted to the most stable, like I'm never going to take a risk in my life kind of energy. I mean, maybe I used to judge that. Probably not. I think I have more of the attraction to that. And yet, because it's I don't think I have it within myself. So I put it all in the other person. But I definitely think, I don't know, there's something about being okay. Like, we will see it as our black or as our shadow. And we know, okay, cool. You don't have to watch female astrologers. That's fine. I'm so curious, okay, you're doing this course. You're doing this masterclass, I should say. You're hosting this masterclass. This is your body of work. Like, this is, when are you how is this all fitting in with your book? Because obviously the book has been it's been a big piece of the journey. It's not the journey, it's just a big part of it. Yeah. How is this all fitting together? Like, why is this all happening now, do you feel?
It's happening now. Okay, yeah. All right. So right now, this year, 2023, Black Moon Lilith for the collective is in Leo. Right now, also, Mars has just entered into Leo. And this year, Venus will retrograde in Leo. There will be some strong aspects to Black Moon Lilith in Leo this year. And this is calling, it's even if you don't have even if you have Black Moon Lilith in Sagittarius or Virgo or wherever you have it, we're still a part of this collective timeline. And this collective timeline is saying it's time for us all to really show up in our Leo. And the Leo aspect of all of us, the temple of Leo for all of us, is about self-expression. It's about being so uniquely ourselves to really, really express our authenticity. And because Black Moon Lilith is there, she's going to show us how scary it is. What's been keeping us from our authentic being of ourselves? What have we been embarrassed to show up as? What have we been like, what have we decided and judged as selfish? Like we could even arrogant. What's the shadow side of Leo? Leo is such a beautiful and complex archetype. You know, when I research these archetypes, I actually look at ancient examples. I'm always like, okay, we're in popular culture now. We've evolved beyond the core foundational elemental level of these archetypes so dramatically that now we're referencing movies and songs and celebrities. Like Leo likes to be on the stage. Leo likes to be the center of attention. There's all these stereotypes about the temple of Leo, but that's just the way our culture sort of perceives it at such a removed place from the root of the archetype. The root of the archetype, you could actually go back to the 7 days of creation. Okay, on the 5th day of creation, all of the animals and beasts of the planet, like the air and the water has been made, the dark and the light, the land. The 5th day of creation is when all of the living, breathing, individual creatures are all created. And it's good. Like there's difference, there's variety, there's diversity. Everything's got its own way of being and life cycles and things that it eats and hunts and procreates. Like it's all very different. It's like, okay, the garden has been set. And it's part of my research with Black Moon Lilith is that originally did you know that there's actually 2 Adams? There's stuff I've unpacked in my research and in my book, and I realize I'm totally sidestepping your question about my book. This is me being slippery about that question. I'm being slippery. I'm trying to bring in all this other, let me dazzle you over here so that you don't pay attention to what I need to actually say about my book. I get it. I accountability. I got it. But there is if you took a diagram shaped like this, there's a polar opposite to Adam and Eve. There's Adam and Eve as the archetypal masculine and feminine. And then there's a polar opposite masculine and feminine archetype. Dark, like if this is conscious or light masculine, conscious or light feminine, there's actually a dark feminine and a dark masculine. And it actually is talked about in ancient texts like the Kabbalah. There's these texts about the origination of evil. It's called the way of the left in like ancient Judaism. And in the Bible, it actually talks about this too. Like these ancient texts, there was an Adam. There was an original animalistic human form that was not man or woman. It was made from the same substance that all the animals were made of. And it was a hermaphrodite. It was not male or female. And it actually operated just as an animal would. And that Adam and Eve combo was then transformed on the 6th day into conscious. They were separated into conscious female and male parts. But the animal, instinctual, undifferentiated masculine, feminine that was very earthy, was made from the earth, that went into the shadow when we became these conscious male and female. And this is the origin of Leo, is that animalistic, instinctual self. The before we became conscious, before we started labeling things as good and bad, before we decided that there was the tree of right and wrong, before that whole thing happened, there was this part of us. And this is the part of us that we're afraid of. This is the part of us that feels it's out of control. This is a part of us that we've domesticated. And this is a part of us that's making itself known in our consciousness. It's trying to break through our unconscious into our conscious awareness. And it's going to do that in a number of different ways. Some of it is going to be projecting on other people, projecting on the world at large, projecting on politicians, projecting on all the bad things that are happening. So we're going to see a judgment of bad things increase to the degree that we're not integrating and accepting and bringing into wholeness this part of ourselves. And so this year of all the years is the year. And the reason why it's also for me a personal timing thing is Leo is the temple before Virgo, and Virgo is where my Black Moon Lilith is. And I am finishing up, I'm pulling it all together, I'm integrating, I'm bringing it all together, because the actual publication of this book, the actual bringing out into the world, will coincide likely with my Black Moon Lilith return. And I went through, when I was learning and studying all this, I did so much biography stuff. I went through, and every single huge threshold event has been a Black Moon Lilith event, some sort of aspect, whether it was an exact conjunction, a square, an opposition. There has been strong Black Moon Lilith initiations throughout my life. And I know that I won't get out scot-free through this next Black Moon Lilith return. I won't. This is when, not only that, the whole thing is about the serpent priestess, the serpent initiations, the serpent energy that flows inside of all of us, that's trying to surface during this Leo moment, that's trying to rise in our animalistic nature. This is what I'm going to talk about in the masterclass, because there's some structure to this that I have to adhere to in order to get my words and ideas, because my Black Moon Lilith wants me to come across coherent. Like, it wants me to come across as someone who's able to deliver something in a process grounded sort of way that's practical and usable for people. But this is my opportunity to be a little bit less grounded, because this isn't the masterclass. This is a supplemental conversation. So I can be a little, I'm giving myself permission right now. Anyways, next year is the year of the dragon, and after that is the year of the snake. We have 2 reptilian years following this one. This is the year of the rabbit. And even though Chinese astrology, archetypal, and those animals, all of it is a part of us. All of it's a part of this world and our collective field of relating to archetypal energy. And so there's some relevance to these years. There's relevance to me, to all of us really, but because the whole theme is about the serpent energy, and my book literally starts out with our relationship to the dragon. And the 5th chakra gatekeeper from my perspective, is a dragon, and you literally have appeared to me as a dragon. It feels like next year is the year where it's about to pop off. And it feels like the year after that is when all of the serpent initiations actually take place, because enough of these serpent initiations are happening below the surface. I feel like somehow my little megaphone, my one person story is a part of many stories. And what we say has a ripple effect. It'll land where it's meant to land. It'll do what it's meant to do. It'll give courage to whoever it's meant to give courage to. And then it'll be, and I'm not the only domino. I'm a reaction from another domino that's hit me. So we're part of this fabric. Pluto is in Aquarius, which is showing us how deeply transformative being a part of the fabric actually is, how huge this fabric is that we're a part of. I realize I stepped into a realm that is like, you know, I always do that whenever I'm starting to feel like, wow, on the ground level, I could get really specific, but rather than getting specific about myself and about, the felt, I go way up here because it's safer. And this is this is the crazy edge that we live with.
It's such a beautiful edge because, oh my gosh, what I love is that you have, again, your ability to keep yourself on point when you are delivering information. And I will attest, your book is brilliant. It was brilliant even as I started reading it, and it only became more and more brilliant. And like the level of detail and intricacy and multi-leveledness, and I'm like, oh, this is the complexity and how it all ties together is profound. That's already true. And the same with every masterclass, every lecture, every group, anything I've witnessed you in video, it's like, oh my gosh, it is there. So again, the fear is that's not going to be the case. My experience is it's always the case. Now, of course it isn't, and that's also okay, because what's beautiful is that the permission you're giving yourself is to go, oh god, right. It is like, that's the permission. And if this conversation wasn't cool, because still there was like fucking like on point content delivered, articulated. So there's something here too about the edge of it is that it is both and I love the invitation of this year being the year of the self-expression. I think the self-expression, I mean, we were talking about this the other day, like that's what most of us desire right now, is to be fully expressed, whatever that means. And so I'm honoring you. Like you are in it. You are walking your talk, you're modeling it, you're exploring it, you're delivering exquisite information about it. And then you're going to have a book come out about it, which is amazing.
Well, I have to say that even in the hero's journey, even in mythology, no matter what, there's always been these helpers along the way, these like teachers, guides, they're sometimes adversaries. There's along the personal path of growth and discovery. When we come to these gates, there's always a person that is a gatekeeper that shows up and represents and decides on a soul level that they're going to be that thing for you. And you, all of us, are also that thing for other people in different ways. And I'm going to talk about these 7 gates that no matter who you are, these are initiation gates that we all cross in one way, shape, or form. And I'm going to talk about the sensation of the gatekeepers. And I'm calling all this to awareness because, of course, I witnessed that I was at this gate when I hired you. When I started working with you, I knew that I needed a certain level of I was attracted to you. I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm going to commit to you because I know that you're the person that's going to help me cross this gate. And along the journey, as I got closer to crossing the gate, I decided that you're like, nope, we got to separate. Like literally, like get away. I'm not interested in crossing this gate anymore. Get away from me. You're terrifying, and I don't like what you represent to me anymore, because you represent me being accountable to sharing this story to the world. And I'm gonna own it. In no way did I demoralize you as a person, but I had to move you into a different position in my life. I had to move you away from being the coach and the guide, the one I was resourcing this courage from, and like being held accountable. I had to move you out of that role. And we can do this at every gate. This is a part of our intelligent coping strategy to stay safe and secure and not go past the gate of fear. So I'm going to talk about, I'm probably going to use you as an example. I mean, I'm using you as an example right now because you're literally the person, but I moved you into a friend role. I just energetically was like, you got to go over here. Because when you're right here, you're terrifying to me, baby. And I deliberately asked you if you could be in this role again for this conversation. And I know that you represent this. You kind of have chosen to be this kind of gatekeeper for many people telling their stories. And it's important. It is important this is why, okay, on a different level, this is why we get married. We actually create a bonded material commitment that is difficult to get out of, so that we can so that we can bind ourselves to a gatekeeper long enough for the transformation of that gate. And sometimes we sidestep the gate by demonizing our ex-husband or whatever. We decide that we're not going to own them. We're not going to own that gate. And we're going to blame the gatekeeper for a bunch of stuff. And then we don't actually cross over the threshold because we see the gatekeeper as an enemy rather than someone who really taught us how to step up and grow. Once we're able to fully transform each gatekeeper into a very honored place that we're very grateful for them. Once we're able to do that, we know that we've actually learned something from the gatekeeper, and we can actually even know ourselves as whether or not we actually cross the gate or not. And to a certain degree, I've been crossing my fifth gate. I've been crossing it over and over and over. But there's a big one coming up for me. And you're still in my world, and you're still this person. You still represent this person to me, because I still have identified you as someone who can help to motivate me past the gate. Now, I'm going to talk about each of the gatekeepers in the masterclass. They're a little bit different for each person, but there's always this rhythm and this relational transition that happens. And I'm also, my goal at the end of the first masterclass is to create awareness, to help people to accept that there's this function within them and acknowledge where they're at in the process. This is the goal for the masterclass. That sometimes is enough energy to propel us into the stages that we need to be in. We can actually identify the energy within ourselves. We can see that that's what's at play. We can lean in rather than lean out, and we can actually get the thing done. If we have awareness that it's a thing, if we can accept where we are, accept that the thing is real, and then acknowledge without a desire to be different than we actually are. A lot of people, when I talk about these gates, they're like, well, I've already passed the boss level. I'm boss level. And I can say, freaking true, you could be past boss level, but guess what? It starts over again. You're still going to be at one of these freaking gates. It's a circle. It's not a thing where, like, once you pass the boss level, you don't have to be a part of the gates anymore. This is a circle. Like, time is a circle. The astrology is a circle. We're moving in a circular way. It's not linear. And so we all want to just be like, well, I'm And every single time I talk about these things, people are like, whoa, I'm definitely not at that gate. Like, that's all, like, definitely not there. And it's like, yeah, well, good. Write down where you're not. Just write down, I'm not there. And then put a circle around it.
That's right. I mean, because I'm sitting here thinking I'm at the second gate. But that doesn't mean to me I haven't maybe already been through this a few times. I don't know.
Exactly.
I mean, all I know is there are areas of resistance, of fear, of attraction and repulsion, of like what is still revealing itself, probably through my Black Moon Lilith that I'm tracking right now as you've been talking. I'm like, oh my gosh. So, whew, it's going to be epic. Everything you do is epic. I truly believe that. You say this all the time. Your life is epic. I'm like, yeah, I get that, because what you create, it always feels epic. I'm using always a lot. I don't mean, but that's because I have a bit of a tendency toward all or nothing. And yet actually now I'm beginning to say, we can say always, because always exists simultaneously with never. So it's all good.
It does. I know there was a period of time when there's this changeover where I didn't realize that I was responsible for creating the meaning in my life. I didn't realize I was making the meaning. I felt like I was a character almost victimized by the universe. Like, why in the world is this happening to me? Right. So then it shifted, and all of a sudden, in the bottom of that place, I realized, wait, I'm making all the meaning. I'm the one making my life feel epic. I'm the one believing all these extra layers and complexities that's making this so epic. I'm doing this. And if I'm doing it, I could also make it mean nothing. I could make my life meaningless. Nothing means anything. And that's sort of a relief. And so there was this moment where I was like, existential crisis. Oh my gosh, like how can I be responsible for everything? And then I was like, hold on, wait, hold on. Then if that is true, then I get to make the meaning that feels the most alive to me. If nothing means anything, then I get to make it mean whatever degree of beauty or complexity that I choose. I can participate in that complexity willingly. And it sort of, what it basically did was like, well, because why wouldn't I want to have an epic life? Like, of course, I'm making my life epic. I'm bringing all this extra layer of excitement and meaning. It's deep and meaningful, because why wouldn't I want it to be like that? So now again, it's like a circle. You kind of let go of the fact that we've created the meaning, and then we get to be a participant and like, what? It's crazy. It's so epic. I don't know.
I track everything you're saying. I'm with you. This is exciting. So you've got the masterclass. I mean, and of course, for those who missed it live, you're going to have it available. And this is what to me is so brilliant about what you do. I mean, this is the part of your body of work. So this is great. And I'm honored to be a part of it. It's just
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for giving me an hour of your time to talk about this. This is my idea for this is, let's have an unstructured conversation so that I can kind of get it out of my system before I do the masterclass, so that anyone who's interested in all of this stuff, they can get it, and I can use the masterclass to really focus on that structure and content, and without having to bring a lot of context to the content. So this is my attempt to create that context and to help everyone to understand this is a universal human experience. We all have gatekeepers. If everyone's feeling like they're in a place where they're having a hard time pushing over the threshold of their fear around expression, if they feel like they want to write a book, if they feel like they want to show up on social media more, if they feel like they have a message that they're trying to bring through their system and get out of their throat, which was making my cheeks literally itchy and hot before we started this meeting, which they're still hot, but if they're feeling that way, they need to find someone that's like you, or you specifically, because you're in my circle of influence. They need to connect with someone who can help them to birth the message out of their mouth. Just the same way you would birth a baby, these messages have contractions. These messages come with fear. These messages feel pregnant and ready, and also like a crippling, huge responsibility that we are afraid we will kill and botch and not be able to keep alive. And this is why the mouth and the womb are connected. That whole line is actually one giant piece. And that's why you need people in your corner when you're birthing these messages. You need people to tell you and soothe you and remind you. People have been doing this for ages. People have been sharing their oral history and their truths around the campfires forever. This is the most childbirth and speaking expression are the most natural things that we can do. Animals do it. This thing existed before we knew what it was. The scream.
No one has to tell us how to do it, by the way.
No one has to, but for some reason, we do need people around us.
Yes.
To remind us of that.
Right, because we have forgotten that. So we're all here. I'm here. Others are here to say, yes, like you can do this. It is so natural to you. It is right. It is true. It is all the thing because it just is. It just like you giving birth to a baby just is like that baby isn't right or wrong. That baby isn't true or untrue. It's just there and it has to come out. Yes. And I just love that like I'm standing here doing what I'm doing in the world with people like you and amazing other humans. And then it's like, that is how I'm being supportive. And then like, all I want is to give birth to a child. Isn't that fucking epic?
It's epic. You want to, yeah, you're ready. It's the same axis.
Energy. Yes.
They're two sides of the same axis.
So I'll be looking for like a doula, a real doula one day. So
yeah,
one of those in your sphere of influence.
Thank you, Amanda. Again, thank you so much. I'm gonna like share this video with everyone who signed up for the masterclass. I'm going to share this video. I'm just going to share this as widely as I possibly can. And people who are feeling resonance and calls for either the support I'll provide in the masterclass or the support you could provide, they could reach out to us or they could just watch the video and be freaking catalyzed. And in any case, I hope that the video is serving in that way to give courage, strength, support, connection, recognition, resonance. We're not alone. This is innate and natural. This is universal. Even though I have a personal truth, that personal truth is connected to the universal truth. It is connected. And I just am really grateful for you. Thank you for indulging this space with me.
Thank you for letting me be here, be witness to it. I adore you.
I love you. I care for you deeply. Thank you. All right.